Erik Thorvaldsson, known as Erik the Red, was a Norwegian Viking, remembered in medieval and Icelandic saga sources as having founded the first Norse settlement in Greenland. The Icelandic tradition indicates that he was born in the Jæren district of Rogaland, Norway, as the son of Þorvald Ásvaldsson. He therefore also appears, patronymically, as Erik Thorvaldsson. The appellation, the Red, most likely refers to his hair color and the color of his beard. Leif Eriksson, the famous Icelandic explorer, was Erik's son. Exiles. Erik the Red's father was banished from Norway for the crime of manslaughter. He sailed west from Norway with his family and settled in Hornstrandir in northwestern Iceland. The Icelanders later sentenced Erik to exile for 3 years due to some killings he committed around the year 982. After marrying Tjodil, Erik moved to Haukadal, where he built a farm. The initial confrontation occurred when his thralls started a landslide on the neighboring farm belonging to Valdjof. The Valdjof's friend, Eyjolf the Foul, killed the thralls. In retaliation, Erik killed Eyjolf and Holmgang Hrafn. Eyjolf's kinsmen demanded his banishment from Haukadal. Erik then moved to the island of Oxney. He asked Thorgest to keep his setstokker, inherited ornamented beams of significant mystical value, which his father had brought from Norway. When he had finished his new house, he went back to get them, but they could not be obtained. Erik then went to Breiðabólstad and took them. These are likely to have been Thorgest's setstokker, although the sagas are unclear at this point. Thorgest gave chase, and in the ensuing fight Erik slew both Thorgest's sons and a few other men. After this, each of them retained a considerable body of men with him at his home. Styr gave Erik his support, as did also Eyjolf of Svaney, Thorbjorn, Vifil's son, and the sons of Thorbrand of Alptifirth, while Thorgest was backed by the sons of Thord the Yellow and Thorgir of Hetadal, Aslak of Langadal and his son Illugi. The dispute was resolved at an assembly, the Thing, with the result that Erik was outlawed for 3 years. Discoveries. Even though popular history credits Erik as the first person to discover Greenland, the Icelandic sagas suggest that earlier Norsemen discovered and tried to settle it before him. Tradition credits Gunnbjorn Ulfsson with the first sighting of the landmass. Nearly a century before Erik, strong winds had driven Gunnbjorn towards a land he called Gunjarniska, but the accidental nature of Gunnbjorn's discovery has led to his neglect in the history of Greenland. After Gunnbjorn, Snæbjorn Galti had also visited Greenland. According to records from the time, Galti headed the first Norse attempt to colonize Greenland, which ended in disaster. Erik the Red was the first permanent European settler. In this context, about 982, Erik sailed to a somewhat mysterious and little-known land. He rounded the southern tip of the island and sailed up the western coast. He eventually reached a part of the coast that, for the most part, seemed ice-free and consequently had conditions similar to those of Iceland that promised growth and future prosperity. According to the saga of Erik the Red, he spent his 3 years of exile exploring this land. The first winter he spent on the island of Eriksey, the second winter he passed in Erikshólma. In the final summer he explored as far north as Snæfell and into Hins Fjord. When Erik returned to Iceland after his exile had expired, he is said to have brought with him stories of Greenland. Erik deliberately gave the land a more appealing name than Iceland, in order to lure potential settlers. He explained people would be attracted to go there if it had a favorable name. He knew that the success of any settlement in Greenland would need the support of as many people as possible. His salesmanship proved successful, as many people became convinced that Greenland held great opportunity. After spending the winter in Iceland, Erik returned to Greenland in 985 with a large number of colonists. Out of 25 ships that left for Greenland, only 14 arrived. 11 were lost at sea. The Icelanders established 2 colonies on the southwest coast, the eastern settlement or Eystrabimth in modern-day Qaqortoq, and the western settlement of Estrabimth, close to present-day Nuuk. The eastern and western settlements, both established on the southwest coast, proved the only 2 areas suitable for farming. During the summers, when the weather favored travel more, each settlement would send an army of men to hunt in Disco Bay above the Arctic Circle for food and other valuable commodities such as seals, ivory from walrus tusks, and beached whales. Eystrabimth. In Eystrabimth or Eastern Settlement, Erik built the estate Brattahlid near present-day Narsarsuaq. He held the title of paramount chieftain of Greenland and became both greatly respected and wealthy. The settlement venture involved 25 ships, 14 of which made the journey successfully. Of the other 11, some turned back, while others disappeared at sea. The settlement flourished, growing to 5,000 inhabitants spread over a considerable area along Eriksfjord and neighboring fjords. Groups of immigrants escaping overcrowding in Iceland joined the original party. However, one group of immigrants which arrived in 1002 brought with it an epidemic that ravaged the colony, killing many of its leading citizens, including Erik himself. Nevertheless, the colony rebounded and survived until the Little Ice Age made the land marginal for European lifestyles in the 15th century. Pirate raids, conflict with Inuit moving into the Norse territories, and the colony's abandonment by Norway became other factors in its decline. Relations. Medieval Icelandic tradition relates that Erik the Red and his wife Thjodhilda had 4 children, a daughter, Freydís, and 3 sons, the explorer Leif Eriksson, Þorvaldur, and Thorstein. Erik himself remained a follower of Norse paganism, unlike his son Leif and Leif's wife, who became Christians. After being baptized by King Olaf Tryggvason, Leif brought message of Christianity to Greenland, becoming something of an evangelist, while his wife took heartily to the religion, even commissioning Greenland's first church. Erik greatly disliked the faith and stuck to his Norse gods, which the sagas relate led Thjodhild to withhold intercourse from her husband. Thjodhild was the daughter of Jæren Ulfsson and Thorbjorg Gilsdittir. Jæren's mother Bjorg was granddaughter to Irish King Sirbor MacDunlange through his daughter Rafata. While not the first to sight the North American continent, Leif Eriksson became the first Viking to explore the land of Vinland. Leif invited his father on the voyage, but according to legend, Erik fell off his horse on his way to the ship and took this as a bad sign, leaving his son to continue without his company. Erik died the winter after his son's departure. There is no evidence that Leif was aware of his father's death until he returned to Greenland. Comparisons to Greenland.The Saga. There are numerous parallels to the Greenland.The Saga, including recurring characters and recounts of the same expeditions, although with a few notable differences. The saga of Erik the Red presents a number of the expeditions in the Greenland.The Saga as just one expedition led by Thorfinn Karlsefni, although Þorvaldur Ásvaldsson, Freydís Eriksdóttir and Karlsefni's wife Guthrith play key roles in the retelling. Another notable difference is the location of the settlements. In the Greenland.The Saga, Karlsefni and the others settle in a place that is only referred to as Vinland, while in Erik the Red Saga, they form 2 base settlements: Stramfjord, where they spend winter and the following spring, and Hop, where they later settle and run into problems with the natives, as depicted in the Greenland.The Saga. Otherwise, the tales are largely similar, both with heavy focuses on the exploits of Thorfinn Karlsefni and his wife Guthrith.